Woo! This is the fight guy. And yes, I got my Bo Nickel sweater on. It's Bo Nickel Fight Week, baby. Let's go. UFC Des Moines, Sandhagen versus Figueiredo. That's going to be an amazing card. But before we get to dive into that, which I will in the next day or two, we got to recap UFC Kansas City, the best moments from Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. I'm going to go over the entire main card in detail because that's what most of you guys want to hear about. And I'll touch some of the prelim fights, some of the good moments, the best moments, if you will. And then we'll wrap it up with the bingo card, which is closer now than it's ever been to hitting. We had another square hit over the weekend, but let's get into the first fight on the prelims. Didn't last too long. It was finished within the first round. Chelsea Chandler versus Jocelyn Edwards. Jocelyn Edwards knocking Chelsea Chandler out. What's next for her? I think she should get a title shot here in the next decade. If she keeps this up, Chelsea Chandler shouldn't be in the UFC. She's probably cut by the time this video gets posted. But she didn't run away from Jocelyn Edwards, which is more than you can expect from her. So, great accomplishment, Chelsea Chandler. And Jocelyn Edwards, maybe you could fight a UFC quality bantamweight next. We move on to the featherweight division. Timmy Kuwamba versus Roberto Romero, the second fight on the prelims, and it's the second fight that ended in a finish. You could see right here, this fight did not get past the second round. Victory by flying knee to Timmy Kuwamba. This was the only fight I did get wrong on the prelims. I do pretty good on the prelims. The main card, I get greasy. I get greedy and I get greasy. Roberto Romero, he got kneed in the face. He was dropped. He was in on a single leg, I believe. A lot of people were calling this an early stoppage. I thought it was fine, and I picked Roberto Romero to win. So, looks like the Mexican luck ran out at the end of last month. But great win for Timmy Kuwamba. We move on to the next fight on the prelims. Women's strawweight fight. Jacqueline Amorim versus Polyana Viana. I believe Jacqueline was like a minus 1,000 favorite. A lot of people on Twitter like the way that she looks, and I'm not talking about her fighting style. So, I didn't quite see anybody picking Polyana Viana to win this fight. 13-8. She's really all right. She's got some sweet Naruto tattoos. You guys should check that out. But other than that, she didn't land a single significant strike for an entire first round. I like your tattoos, but Naruto tattoos and you don't land a single significant strike. Jacqueline Amorim, great submission, second round. All three fights have ended in a finish, and this next one ends the same way. Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cameron Simon. Cameron Simon has officially been fraud checked. He's officially been fraud checked. Very hopeful prospect coming out of South Africa just a year or two ago. And now he's on a 3-fight losing streak. And I believe 2 of them were finishes. Maybe all 3 of them. Let's check. 2 of them were finishes. Yeah, the last 2 were both knockouts. Cameron Simon, man. And he had this silly smirk after he lost. Let's see if I could find it real quick. I didn't find the picture. I could, but I don't feel like it. So I got you guys the knockout instead. Here it is. Cameron Simon's chin just getting swept across the living room. Let's see it one more time. Oh, my God. That was such a clean right hand. Malcolm Wellmaker, he's legit. Cameron Simon officially fraud checked. Not much else to say about that fight. It ended in round 1. Wellmaker just looked really confident. He looked really comfortable. And Simon, he was nervous because I feel like he kind of felt like he knew what was going to happen. We move on to the next fight on the prelims. Damon Blackshear versus Alan Tagali. This was an interesting fight. I think the 30-27 decision was fair. Damon Blackshear did not have a single second of control time. And this is what I felt like he could have easily taken Alan Gailey down. You can see here, I've hit this multiple times before, as this is Blackshear's second fight this year. This guy's a submission guru. 11-0 on submissions. I felt like he was, saving the takedown maybe for the second half of round 2 or round 3, but it didn't look like he was looking for a takedown at all. He wanted to strike. I feel like he wanted to get some more knockout tallies up there on the win column. But great win for Damon Blackshear. He outstruck Alan Gailey 2-1. Significant strikes, total strikes, everything. had great leg shots, great body shots, great kicks. He looked pretty good striking. I just wanted to see a little bit of grappling. I was hoping for a finish. This was the first fight on the card that did not end in a finish. Kind of threw off the momentum because, as you could see in the next fight, we had another decision. Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. I told you John Castaneda, he's a grappler. A lot of you guys that watch the sport, you already know. Those that don't, he's a grappler, jiu-jitsu guy, and that was going to be the game plan in this fight, or at least, the card in the back pocket if things got squirrely. Chris Gutierrez, like I pointed out in the video a couple days ago on Friday, he's got great leg kicks. You see here, Castaneda did land his fair share as well, but Chris's leg kicks hit different. He's got great leg kicks, so he was having some success in the striking. We had Chris Gutierrez to win. This was a really close fight. I can't remember clearly. I only watched the prelims once. I went back and I watched the main card. I can't remember what rounds I gave to Chris. I want to say I gave him round 2. No, round 1 and 3. I gave him round 1 and 3. I gave Castaneda round 2. Good decision, 29-28. It was close. It was close. I could have seen it go the other way. The third round was pretty even. We move on to the next fight, Evan Elder versus Gage Young. Our boy Evan Elder won this fight. It was a 30-27 dominant win, you could say. He just controlled the entire fight, kind of like the same way Ian Garry controlled Prates for the first 3 rounds, but we will get there. No grappling this fight. These boys just struck it out on their feet. Gage Young, props to him for going to a decision. He's a tough kid. He just hasn't found his stride lately. I'd like to see him fight one more time in the UFC. I believe that was his debut, right? So he could have got knocked out. He could have got submitted. Evan Elder's legit. This guy's got a chin on him. Gage hung in there. I just wanted to verify that was his first fight. Yeah, first fight in the UFC. He lost his Dana White Contender Series fight. Third time's a charm. Give him a softball. Let's see what his potential is with UFC caliber guys. Last fight, featured prelim, Matt Schnell versus Jimmy Flick. A lot of people were counting my boy Matt Schnell out. Fellow Louisianan. Guys from Louisiana, besides Brennan Allen, have looked pretty good this year. And girls. We've had, I can't think of her name, Jessica something, women bantamweight. She's from, Sulphur, Louisiana. I'm not making shit up. Look it up. There's a UFC female fighter from Sulphur, Louisiana. I'm not going to get off the point too much. Matt Schnell looked pretty good. Jimmy Flick has really good jiu-jitsu. Fun. I don't know why they put this prop on the screen, but Jimmy Flick was 0-3 as an underdog going into this fight, and now he's 0-4 as an underdog. Interesting prop. Schnell looked great striking. He had a lot of success striking. He was the guy that wanted to keep it on the feet. Jimmy Flick really tried to keep the fight on the ground and apply his jiu-jitsu and grappling skills. As you can see, he had 8.5 minutes of control time and still lost this fight. Matt Schnell, chinny Schnell, hung in there. He didn't get chin, which I was nervous for him a few times. Great fight for Matt Schnell. Would have liked to see a finish, but Chris Gutierrez kind of threw the mojo off, or Blackshear, I'm sorry, and then we've gotten 4 straight decision fights from a hot start on the prelims. But we're gonna move right on to the main card. Wrap this up as quick as I can, which Ikram makes it easy for me because this was a round 1 finish for Ikram Aliskerov. This guy is legit. Nothing against Andre Muniz. He's just not the caliber of fighter that Ikram is. Really, I believe, if Ikram ran it back with Robert Whittaker, I think he would probably lose again, but he'd lose a decision. I think he learned a lot from that fight. He really is, when you look at his record, this is somebody that represents a 16-2 record pretty well. It's not a padded record. This guy's legit. He looked really good in this fight. As you can see, outstruck Andre Muniz 4-1. Got him out of there right at the end of the first round, knocked him down, just a little bit of ground and pound for about 30 seconds, and that's what you're seeing here with the numbers. Great win for Ikram. As for who he should fight next, man, there's so many. Oh, middleweight. Maybe give him the winner of Bo Nickel and RDR this weekend. The timing works out. I think Bo Nickel would like to fight in Abu Dhabi in October. Whenever they do it. We move on to the next fight. Randy Brown versus Nicholas Dalby. This was an amazing fight. Potential for one of the best knockouts of the year. Maybe the best. The Mauricio's Ruffy spinning heel kick was so crazy. And, Gene Silva's got a bunch of highlights. Randy Brown, this was a crazy knockout. He flatline knocked Nicholas out. It looked like the Gaethje knockout. from Max Holloway at UFC 300. Right hand from Randy Brown just catches Nicholas Dalby after a knee landed a few seconds prior, and he face planted the same exact way Justin Gaethje did. I'll try to find the clip and I'll add it in the video for reference, but Randy Brown looked great. He did really good managing distance in the first and second round. He did get caught pretty badly in the first round, dropped by Nicholas, I'll say that. Not too bad, but it could have been over with the right following shots after that knockdown. Round 2, just flipped the script. Landed a cold, left knee, right knee. I think it was a right knee. Wobbled Nicholas, had him up against the cage. He kind of did a half squat and then caught a right hook shortly after, face plant, knockout. Second round win, Randy Brown, phenomenal knockout. A lot of people are saying he should fight Carlos Prates. I believe Randy Brown should be ranked. I'm not sure. I don't believe he is. I believe he is just outside the ranking, so give him like a 12 to 15 ranked guy next. Carlos Prates would be a good fight. But I want to see Carlos fight another, maybe like a top 10. I don't know. Next fight, Mikael Pereira versus Abus Magomedov. I wanted to go with Abus. I was just, I felt like this fight wasn't going to go the distance. The props, it was like a plus 200 for it to go over 2.5 rounds. If you would have asked me, if this fight would have went to the distance, who I would have went with, I would have went with Magomedov, probably 60-40. Mikael Pereira, when it comes to finishing potential, I feel like Pereira just has much better finishing potential to get you out of there. That's what I was counting on this fight. He was just really hesitant. He was behind Magomedov. He was slower. You could see 30-27. I mean, Magomedov's shots landed harder. They were faster, and he was just a little bit ahead of Mikael Pereira the entire fight. It felt like Pereira was waiting for something, like he was hesitant. The commentating booth was talking about his cardio, like that was the issue. I'm not convinced it was his cardio. It just looked like he was waiting for the perfect setup, waiting for Abus to step in a certain way or reach with a certain punch before he reacted. I'm not sure, though. Could very well have been his gas tank. Both these guys were dog tired at the end of the third round. So great win for Abus. We had that one wrong. But we're 3-3 on the main card, and I was 7-1 on the prelim. So this next fight I got wrong too. It was an amazing fight though. Giga Chikadze, I like calling him Chikadze. I know it's Chikadze, versus David Onama. David Onama's got really good wrestling. He's got really good fight IQ. He knows when to apply it. Giga was hitting him with some nasty kicks in the first round. I believe Onama took him down with the last minute 30. I might have that time wrong. But yeah, this was a really close fight. Giga having a lot more success on his feet. There were no knockdowns or wobbles or anything like that I can remember. Just David Onama knowing when to take Giga down. Fight IQ won him that fight. I gave Onama the first 2 rounds, I believe, and Giga really looked good in the third. But over 6 minutes of control time, he was doing damage. He was trying to get advanced position. He wasn't just sitting there and resting. So it was a great fight. Wanted to see Giga win, but still a competitive fight. It could have went either way if Giga had a little bit better takedown defense. I think if he would have been able to keep Onama on his feet, he may have even gotten a knockdown. He was really starting to find a lot of success with his kicks and all of his striking together. But let's go ahead and move on to the man of the hour, really. The co-main event of the evening, Anthony Lionheart Smith. Put some respect on his name. 60 total professional fights. He called it a night on Saturday versus Zhang Mingyang. Zhang is an animal. 19 wins, 19 straight first round, 19 first round finishes. Anthony Smith does what Anthony Smith does best. He gets his ass beat, and he goes into fetal position within the first minute of the first round. This is a trend that he's done for a while, a veteran move of Anthony Smith. I did not expect him to just sit in a puddle of blood twice after he got his top of his head mauled in. It looked like a fucking bald eagle was pecking at the top of his bald head. Look at that. Blood dripping down. It was pretty gory. There was a puddle of blood. You could have stepped in it and it would have splashed Pretty nasty cut on the top of the head. Zhang just dropped what felt like 45 elbows in a row until Anthony Smith retired from that fight, and then he retired from the UFC. I'm not going to say that I was wrong for trying to give this guy the respect that he deserves. 60 total professional fights is insane. But god dang. And the excuses on this guy. He flipped off a random guy in the crowd, kind of ruined his retirement moment a little bit. Flipped him off as soon as the fight was over. Then he went over to him in the cage. Zhang had to tell him not to jump in the crowd. Don't jump in the crowd. Whatever. 60 professional fights. You feel like you'd be able to deal with something like trash talk a little bit better than that, but that's the heart of the lion right there, baby. Retirement fight. Getting knocked out in the first round. That's something Robbie Lawler could never do. But Anthony Smith, what a career he's had. We're glad that he's gone because we don't want to watch this happen to him anymore, of course. But what a career. Zhang Mingyang, though. This guy is fun to watch. He's fun to watch. He's going to fit into the light heavyweight division just fine. I know this wasn't his first fight in the UFC. I think this was like his third fight. What did I say? Maybe his fourth? Third fight. Okay, check me out. But he's settling into this hot division just fine. I can't wait to watch who they give him next. Let's move on to the main event. Let's get this over with. Very interesting fight. Ian Machado Garry versus Carlos Prates. He snaps the Fighting Nerds winning streak. They were 18-0 in the UFC. Borjalo, Rufi, Silva, and Prates, those four. Now they have their first loss in the UFC. It was a good fight. I think 48-47 is the right decision. One judge gave it 49-46. Prates definitely took the fifth round. I gave him rounds 4 and 5, as two other judges did. But I mean, goodness gracious, this was it was just a weird fight. This was a weird fight. Carlos Prates starts off the first 3 rounds just slow. It just didn't look like he was in his groove. It wasn't his cardio. I know he looked a little bit weary because he usually knocks you out in the first round, but he looked like it was the opposite of what it should have been, right? Like he started the fight like looking slow, like looked like he was gassed, but it wasn't it. He was just really reactionary to Ian Garry. He was behind Ian Garry. Garry would land 2, 3, 4 shot combo. Carlos would throw 1 punch, 2 punch. You get what I mean? And then round 5, Carlos just turned on the heater. It looked like how he should have looked in round 1. Very interesting. I'm not sure if it was just him, applying the game plan late or, listening to his corner late. Or I'm not exactly 100% sure what was going on there, but he was starting to stuff Ian Garry's takedowns. There, Ian Garry was getting pretty tired at the middle point of round 4, definitely round 5, and he was a little bit concussed. Carlos Prates, officially, I've never seen somebody get so close to finishing another fighter and choosing not to. Is what it was. Carlos Prates, all he had to do was drop 5 more strikes. I mean, 2 or 3 of those would have landed bouncing in Gary's back of the head off the canvas. He was done. The ref would have stopped that fight. As we saw earlier, second fight in the prelims with Roberto Romero. I mean, the refs will stop the fight if you start unloading punches. Carlos Prates had 2 or 3 opportunities to do that, and he didn't. The last opportunity with about 15 seconds left of the fight, he lets Ian Garry up, which was the last thing I would have done. I'm sure his corner was not telling him to let Ian Garry up because he could not keep up with Ian Garry on the feet. And I don't mean the volume of the strikes. I just mean he wasn't cutting Ian Garry off properly. I'm not sure if Ian Garry was just really good at maintaining his distance, which, don't get me wrong, he did a phenomenal job of. But I have not seen like a fighter run circles around another fighter like that for 5 rounds. Since Lerone Murphy. It hasn't been that long. It was Lerone Murphy just a few weeks ago. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, the crowd was booing him. This is what it takes to win sometimes. If you're a guy like Ian Garry against Carlos Prates, maybe Prates is more skilled on the feet than you, but you're a well-rounded striker. You want to maintain your distance and circle and, apply whatever techniques that are going to help you get through that round, land more strikes, block, make him miss more, and just look better on the judges' scorecard. That's what Ian Garry did well the first 3 rounds. Like I said, round 4, round 5, Carlos Prates was stuffing the takedowns and starting to outland Ian Garry. Had him hurt bad, like I said, at the end of the fight, but the fighting nerd with the lowest IQ, I suppose, didn't finish the fight. It was a disappointing finish, but it is what it is. Carlos Prates was really close. I was hype. I was standing. I was screaming. I thought he was actually going to do it after thinking that Ian Garry was just going to wrestle him for 5 rounds going into that final round. So it was a great fight. I hope Carlos Prates gets another ranked guy next, but I could see him fighting Randy Brown. That would be a fun fight. Ian Garry is asking for a title shot, or he's going to Canada. His flight's already booked. His bags are already packed, and he's going to be the reserve fighter for JDM versus Bilal. That's very interesting. There's so many strong contenders in this division, but Ian Garry's going to be the reserve fighter. That's what we're dealing with here. That was the card. I'd give it maybe a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was a pretty good card. The prelims were rocking until the last 4 fights, and the main card was very entertaining. Anthony Smith getting finished in the first round on his retirement fight and taking it out on a 350-plus pound fan in the crowd was hilarious. Carlos Prates almost finishing Ian Garry was great, but without further dues, let's get into the bingo card so we can wrap this up real quick. Here is what we had going into this weekend, all right? You can see, there's still plenty of opportunity for many different bingos, and then this happens, all right? They announce a fight in Louisiana, in New Orleans, UFC 318, Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. I spoke about this briefly in my last video, but first time in a decade. The UFC is coming back to Louisiana. That's very exciting. Even if you're me, we're about 2 likely boxes away from the bingo card hitting. A fighter shorts coming off in the octagon and Sean Strickland not going to decision. This doesn't mean he has to win the fight. If he gets knocked out or submitted, or if he knocks somebody out or submits somebody, God forbid, we're not looking good because there's still 7+ months left this year. The odds of a fighter shorts coming off in the octagon are pretty high, and I believe it's already happened once this year, but we had another bingo space hit first. So that's it. That's the fight, guy. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in a couple days. UFC Des Moines. All right, Sanhagen versus Figueiredo. We have RDR versus Bo Nichols, the co-main event. It's going to be a pretty good card. Should be pretty similar to Kansas City.